Hey, Kamoye Benjamin, welcome to Peak Performance Secrets starts right now. There is more for you. Manifest your brilliance so that you can go for more, whatever more represents for you, more clarity, more awareness, more confidence, more resilience, more assertiveness, more impact, more income, whatever more represents for you. The purpose of this lunch and learn session is to help you to deploy yourself at the optimum mindset and skill set required in order for you to create more. In this week, I've been talking about thrive. I'm all passionate about thriving, and thriving and the idea of more are very related. Thriving, speaks of, abundance. It speaks of being in full health and wealth in every way. Ecosystems can thrive, people can thrive, businesses can thrive, relationships can thrive, economies can thrive. It is living up to our highest good, our model of perfection as God has deposited it into our hearts. But as we talk about this, I've been covering the mindset of thriving, the motivation for thriving, and the methods for thriving. If you want to catch the other episodes, please jump onto my YouTube channel. And when you're there, just look for the Thriving series and you'll catch that together with other things. Today, what are we talking about? I want us to explore the success that costs you less. The success that costs you less. I actually came up with this there just before the call because I felt that it kind of fitted in well. And this is the dilemma. This is the dilemma of thriving. Because when you think about thriving, and I defined thriving. I want to bring it up for you if you missed, the previous sessions that we had. We defined thriving in several ways. It's a term that generally means to prosper. It means to grow, to flourish. Think about flourishing in your life and flourishing in a positive and healthy way. But oftentimes when people are thinking about thriving, when people are thinking about flourishing, when people are thinking about success, it appears that there's an ultimate price that ought to be paid. And the question is normally, are you willing to pay that price? There are few people in our society that have come out openly and described a success or the success that costs you less. Most of the people who are either on one side of the divide are demonizing success, and they are talking about thriving as something that's not to be pursued because it comes with self-inflicted injuries. If you look at certain business people who've thrived in the marketplace, you can see that, wow, though they may have resources financially or otherwise, they seem to be missing another critical part of their life, be it family or their health. And those are mainly the pictures that get painted about thriving, about success. And it appears as though you cannot have all your balls in the air, juggling them, and none of them falls. It appears as though that is a mirage. You can see it from afar, but nobody ever reaches it. I'm here to share with you that there is a success that costs you less. You don't have to pay with your health. You don't have to pay with your family. You don't have to pay with your values. You don't even have to pay with your faith. You don't have to pay with your relationships. You just need to pay the right price. And that price is always less. It costs you less. And that's what I want us to explore today. But as we enter that discussion, I do have a couple of questions for you. I'm going to bring them up onto the screen because I want us to engage in this conversation of thriving. The first question is, what does thriving look like for you? In a peak performance mentorship program, I talk about thriving in the 5 domain areas of life. I talk about thriving in your faith. I talk about thriving in your fitness. I'm going to bring it up for you very quickly. Yeah. I talk about thriving in these 5 areas. It's not just one or some. It's thriving in all the 5. Thriving in your faith, thriving in your fitness, thriving in your family, fulfilling work and finances. Yeah, you can add fun, freedom. I just like alliteration. I had all the letters with starting with F. Add whatever letter you want to add that matters to you. Friendships, fun, freedom. Hey, have it your way. What does thriving look like in each of these 5 domains with clarity and specificity? That's the first question, because if we're going to talk about thrive, we're going to talk about success, if we're going to talk about an outcome, then we need to come back where we are right now and say, what price are we willing to pay for that outcome? There's a course, there's a teaching that I've been wanting to do, but it's been floating in my head and I'm just marinating on it. And it's called Freedom is Not Free. Most people desire to have a certain kind of lifestyle where they are unlimited in the way that they express themselves, the way that they utilize their time, the way they deploy their money and their talent, that it's no bounds. Financial freedom, time freedom, being with my family, the people that I love. Right, I get that. That's thriving for you. If that's the picture, great. If that's what it looks like, what's the price? Because that which you consider to be freedom is not going to be free. And so many people have injured themselves severely and reached that point where they are thriving in a particular area of their life, but they've paid a high price in another area. I believe that as I share this, it is common knowledge that there are people who are even willing to sacrifice their loved ones, all for a certain amount of success, outcome, financial progress, whatever that may be. There are people who are willing to go to those lengths. And today, as a peak performance coach, talking about the mindset and the skill set required to create more, I bet that you or yourself, the answer to this question, what does thriving look like for you in the 5 domain areas of your life? And if you don't have that answer, my encouragement to you is start right now and articulate. I've developed a program called the Blueprints for Holistic Peak Performance. It takes you step by step. It's a 2.5-hour course that gives you the foundations and the principles for goal setting and goal achieving. And over the next 90 days, you can actually define what thriving looks like and start on that journey. My peak performance mentorship program is where I walk you through through that journey. But you can also come in because we've worked with our private clients in that process. The next question is, now that you've defined what winning and thriving and what we're calling success looks like, what price are you willing to pay for that thrive? And also, what price are you not willing to pay for that thrive? It is easier to know what you're going to do when a situation arrives. It is easier to know what to do if you have premeditated what you will do should that situation arise. When you're in the heat of the moment, that's not the time to start thinking, because your automatic processes are going to respond. They're going to react based on how you programmed them before. And so when it comes to the price of success, you have had stories, I have heard stories of people who are invited into a room and they were asked, give us a number. Every man has a price. Isn't that what the quote says? Show us your price. Give us a number so that you can leave this matter alone, so that you can pursue this agenda for us. We'll take care of everything for you. But all you need to do is you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. There are those that are willing to go to the extreme edge of that conversation and kill other people, disenfranchise others severely. Some of them are even willing to injure themselves and injure their loved ones in the process of creating what they want. So you've got to be able to say, number 1, what does thriving look like for me? Number 2, what price am I willing to pay and what price am I not willing to pay? When does thriving become too expensive? And while we're still in that conversation, we've got to be able to again answer another question, which is the important discussion I want us to have today. What informs the price that you are willing to pay for success? What informs, what determines, where is that part in man where you find the regulator for the price that somebody is willing to pay? What is that part within you that calibrates and says, this one you can pay the price, this one you're not going to pay the price? What is that part within man? Because can I shock you? It is not up to you. You might think that you're going to plan and decide what price you're willing to pay. But when you are in the heat of the moment, You will find yourself doing things that you thought you were incapable of, going to lengths that you believed you did not have the ability to go to. I'm reminded of this story in the Bible when Nebuchadnezzar said, "Every man shall bow." And the three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they said, "You know what? We're not going to do this. We're not willing to pay this price. Kill us if you want. What price are you not willing to pay for your values?" They were standing up for their values, and they were like, "No, for this, we're not going to do it." And because we're on this side, we're still not discussing you dying. The conversation of peak performance today is not you being thrown into a fire and then Jesus Christ comes to rescue you. That's not the conversation. The context for that discussion is different. But I mean, you see somebody who's willing to pay the ultimate price for something that they believe in, and that's a different conversation. But when we're talking about thriving, there is a cost that is too high, and I'll not be the one to determine how high that cost is. What I want to share with you is that when we are discussing thriving involves and is inclusive of all the domains of life. You cannot be considered a success if you are doing what harms you. The cost of that success is too high. It's not a success. Isn't that what we do in business? If I want to sell this mouse for $200, but it ends up costing me $250, who am I going to sell it to? If I sell it at 200, guess what? I made an outright loss. There's no success. That business is not successful. But why is it that we consider that in life we can ban one aspect and area of our lives and yet claim to have success in another? Are we using the right metrics and measures? Are our definitions okay? Because the definition that we're having is that you're prospering in a healthy way in every area of your life. Now, to the question of the day, what informs the price we're willing to pay for success? What do you think it is? Is it your commitment? What informs the price? What drives people to pay the price that they pay for the success that they have? And is it possible that some people pay a price too much? And my objective is to share with you what exactly influences that. Watch this. Follow me for a minute. It's this very simple and yet powerful thing that we call identity. Identity. Your identity governs what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And when I speak about identity, what exactly am I talking about? Identity here refers to several things. Identity refers to, and I'm going to pick one aspect. It refers to your self-concept. Who you consider yourself to be. Inside this thing called your self-concept are three very important things. The first one is what we call your self-image. How you see yourself. We think in images. When I say banana, you don't see B-A-N-A-N-A, you see the yellow fruit. When I say pineapple, when I say mango, you don't see the words. So when I call out your name, when you're thinking about yourself, you don't think of yourself in words, you think of yourself in images. And you either have a certain image of you that sees yourself as being worthy of success, of being worthy of mastery, of being worthy, which brings in this other part, which is part of the self-concept, which is your self-worth. Self-worth governs a lot of your self-respect, your self-esteem. All of this is part of your self-concept. And then something very, very, very nice is inside here, and it's called your ideal self. Your ideal self. The way you picture yourself, you think of yourself, I'm that guy, who's looking like this, there's a way you like to think of yourself and see that future you And that's really kind of the space where dreams and visions and imaginations are birthed about you. There's a way each of us kind of gets to think of themselves. If you are given a moment to wonder and dream and imagine, can you tell us what your ideal future would look like? Everybody seems to have an answer to that question. Where does that information lie? It is part of your self-concept. And it's different for all of us. Now, identity governs the way that you show up in life. It governs what you do, why you do it, what you say, and how you show up to situations. And specifically now, when the bill of success is presented to you and you're told this is the price to have the family, the faith, the fitness, the fulfilling work, and the finances that you desire, you step back. And it's no longer you in that particular moment who is engaging in the conversation about the price, about the cost for success. It's your identity. It takes over. Yes, you may consciously be present, but guess what? After you go and sleep and tomorrow morning you wake up and it's time for you to do what is required. If it's fitness, it's you to show up and eat that, green back juice and kale and spinach, put together, and you need to take that in the morning. That's when you're like, no, I was not serious about it. If it's you showing up to do the work that's required to do, if it's you showing up for your family, if it's you showing up to build that vibrant relationship with God in your faith, the self-concept shows up for work. It's not because you said you want it. That's good enough, but hey, that's not who is showing up with overalls the following day. It's your self-concept. And your self-concept is really your identity. Your identity, if I may just mention this as we work with private clients in this conversation, your identity also, is comprised of assumptions. It's comprised of beliefs. It's comprised of narratives. Hope you guys can see this. The blue color, I'm going to bring in white. This is what makes up your self-concept, your identity, your self-image, your mental models. All of this govern how much you're willing to pay. It informs the price. It informs the cost that you're willing. Now, let's enter a deeper conversation. There's two sides of a coin here as far as your identity is concerned. Depending on the identity that you hold about yourself, okay, there are two core drivers. I just want to summarize. It's a long conversation that would take two or 3 days to engage in. Just want to summarize it in a few minutes. There are two core drivers that are hooked to your identity, that are hitched to your identity. If you think about trains pulling another, there's the main engine. There's the main engine that's got the muscle, that's got the power, and then you've got the bogies at the back, and they're just following this train engine. They don't have an engine of themselves. They're just following the main engine and going wherever it goes. Identity is like that main engine, and there are two core fuels in this engine that is identity. The first one side of a coin, is fear. The other one, on the other side of a coin, is passion. Or we also call it love in leadership conversations, in deploying ourselves. And so when you're thinking about what thriving looks like in your life, you could be choosing, unconsciously that is, you could be making your plans to thrive based on what you don't want to happen. And so what is the core fuel? Fear is the core fuel. And in that moment, people are willing to do way more than they are aware of. I'll show you shortly how we measure this in leadership conversations, because it can be measured. There's a lot of research out here right now on leadership that can be measured. And so when these two core fuel centers are at play, the cost that you pay for success is very different. And there are three core fears that I want us to just mention. We'll discuss on another day. The first fear is the fear of rejection. Oh, this is such a huge one. The fear of rejection. It has to do with relationships. Again, it's connected to your core strengths. The second one is the fear of looking foolish. It's connected to your gifts of reason, your head strengths, smart people. The third one is the fear of failure, and it's connected to your gift for creating results, what we call hand strengths. These are called head strengths, and these are what we also call heart strengths. Are you following? Conversation for another day. But fear is a core fuel center. Fear, what people want to avoid. What people want to avoid. And here's my question for you. Is your Thrive agenda being driven by something that you want to avoid? A problem you want to solve? Because that's a very different energy center. That's a different train with a different engine going to a very different destination. In other words, we call that mind frame playing not to lose. I don't want to lose. Winning is good, but wait a minute. Let me first make sure I don't lose. And when you're operating from a place of fear, when you're living your life designing it to avoid something, when you're investing because you are avoiding, when you put money and save money because you are avoiding, when you step into a relationship and behave in a certain way because you are avoiding, when you go for fitness because you are avoiding, there's no price you will not pay. You will cross the boundaries that you thought you had put for yourself. It's a lesser energy. It's a lesser power. Let's go to the greater power, and it's passion and love. And the big question here is normally, what do I want? That's it. And what do I want is in constant pursuit of that outcome that I want. In constant pursuit of that outcome that I want. Never holding back, never looking back. What do I want? What do I want? What do I want? What do I want in my faith, in my fitness, in my family, in my fulfilling work, in my finances? What do I want? And the fuel of passion or love never ends. It's constantly pursuing and constantly seeking to express itself. And this is a lower cost. When passion is the driver, it's a lower cost. I wish I could unpack this for you in so many ways, but we've got a tool here that literally measures what we are talking about. It's called the Leadership Circle Profile. You should check it out. And for those that are in our private, community as our clients, we've worked with them to really identify what the core driver is. And notice, if you can read it at the center. What is at the center right here? It's a little bit blurred, but what's the word? Identity. That little dot right there in the center of this tool unlocks so many answers for you to understand what your core is. And when you are leading from what we call the reactive, in other words, fear is your core driver, you pay a very high price to create results. You pay a very high price because your identity is in reason. And you pay a very high price for the relationships that you want because you don't want to be rejected. And a high price here, I'm talking about price from these three core areas. There's a price that you pay as a person, as an individual. There's a price that your team pays, whether this includes your family. And there's also a price that your organization pays. 3 areas where people are paying a price for the success. Come on, you know the stories that are out here in society. How someone, a father, a mother, has gone ahead, a brother, a sister, they've gone into a certain direction and paid whatever price that they wanted to pay or they felt they ought to pay for success, and it's coming to bite them. It's coming to bite their family. It's coming to bite the spaces that they're in. It's biting the society. It's biting generations after. Curses are being visited upon generations because somebody paid a price that was too high. That was too high. They shouldn't have paid that price. But what state of mind, what space were they operating from? What was driving them deploying themselves and saying, you know what, I'll take that bill. It doesn't matter how high it is, I'm going to pay that bill. I don't care. Or maybe they didn't know. They didn't know. You see, choice is a function of awareness. To the extent that we know, we choose. But they were not aware that these core drivers are already at play. They were not aware. And so my invitation to you is interrogate what these core drivers are for you so that you don't pay the ultimate price. I'm inviting you to engage with me about private coaching, because this short session can only cause and ignite awareness, but I cannot serve you beyond this point. What I'd like for you to do is to engage with me about private coaching. These are 2-on-1 sessions designed again to ignite the awareness required to accelerate the creation of extraordinary results in your life and in your business. In other words, I mean thriving in every way in your life and in your business, but at a low cost. Is it possible to have success that costs you less? Yes, it's possible. Story of my life, I know it costs less. I've lived both lives. And when I had this awareness, the dilemma of, oh my goodness, I have to do this to have that. I have to. No, you don't have to. You just need to want to do something. You want to do something, and then you step in and make it happen. Thank you so much for tuning into today's Peak Performance Secrets. My name is Kamoye Benjamin. Please type in the comments, what is the one idea that has really inspired you, that you relate to, that engages where you are, and that you would like to take me up on? Any question you may have, drop it in the comments. In due time, I'll have an opportunity with my team to review that and get back to you. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Until tomorrow, we're still talking about Thrive in this week's series. Thrive. There is more for you. Manifest your brilliance and go for more. Hey, some of you may be saying, Benjamin, how do I connect with you? I just thought about this. Peak Performance Mentorship is on. Head out to catalyst.ke. Okay, the page looks like this, catalyst.ke, and click that button there, hold my spot, and you will get a coordinated response on how to actually define a blueprint that outlines what thriving for you is in the 5 domain areas of life and what you can exactly begin to do to take those next steps. I'm here to serve you. Be well. Bye for now. Peak Performance Secrets will be back again tomorrow at 1 p.m. East African time. Bye for now.